lined up for the Innovation Summit starting today. I'm happy to welcome Mr. Sudhakar Reddy, founder of AbhiBus, to the session today. Before I hand over to Isaac, I request you all to visit our website, www.hysia.in, and also our Twitter and FB handles, Hysia, HYSEA 1991, and follow them to get frequent updates on our activities. Enjoy the session today, and on behalf of the Hysia Executive and Management Committee members, I thank you all for your support to ICR. Many thanks, and over to Isaac.
Thank you, Barney. Good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to the program today. So I'll briefly go over what the HYSIA Innovation Forum is about. This is one of the key areas of focus from the HYSIA initiatives at this point of time. Some of the broad areas that we focus on is about knowledge sharing, about innovation, entrepreneurship, technologies, and related areas. And one of the focus areas in that is related to the sessions that we are going to see today and maybe in the subsequent weeks. And also there are other events like the annual summit, the Innovation Forum is involved in running, hackathons for both, say, universities and startups. And then we are also taking on social innovation from a technology for good point of view, and partnerships with STPA, TSIC, and JNTU, and other government and private bodies and also institutes, and also various centers of excellence: product management, agile, cloud, AI, IoT, blockchain, AR, VR, gaming, cybersecurity. So in the gamut of the whole innovation, our focus is, as you can see, across the board, and we have various members from the community, from the government, and also from the member companies participating and actively focused on driving innovation in our ecosystem. So with that, we will get on with the main event today. So once again, I would like to welcome Sudhakar Reddy to the program today. Sudhakar Reddy Chira always wanted to combine his passion for technology with his entrepreneurial streak, the result of which was AbhiBus that he founded in 2007. Today, the company has grown to become a market leader, not only as a technology service provider to the bus industry, but also as the fastest growing online aggregator of bus tickets inventory across India. Sudhakar's vision is to reinvent bus travel in India through abhibus.com, and in the process make the online portal the preferred choice for booking bus tickets, where everyone admires a company for its performance, people, and partnerships. So welcome again, Sudhakar, to the program. Yeah, Sudhakar, you're on mute.
Thanks, Isaac. Firstly, good evening, everyone. I think I thank HYSIA firstly for giving me this opportunity to talk about my journey, and also what are the ups and downs and the tough times what I had, and share my experiences. Really delighted, and thanks again, Bharani personally, Isaac, Rajkumar, Srinivas Rao, and Neeraja. So with that note, I'll just start about my journey. So Isaac, we can start the conversation. Yeah.
Sure. Welcome again, Sudhakar. So in terms of this particular program, what everybody is interested in hearing is about your journey, right? I think it has been a very long and a very successful journey, and you have spent pretty much most of your career in this as an entrepreneur. So I think people would like to hear from you how it started and how you have gone about everything and where you are, what do you think of the future. And once we go through that, I think by then, I think people, the audience would also come up with questions, and we have some discussions after that. Maybe we can do that for the remaining time also.
Sure.
With that, I'll hand over to Sudhakar.
Sure, thank you. So I'll talk a little bit, and then I'll share my screen to present a couple of slides, which will be helpful for all the members. So my journey, AbhiBus started with a bus journey itself in the year 2007. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I'm from Guntur. My parents are, in fact, they're also farmer. My father is a farmer, grandfather farmer. So, and my father got into a business in 2004, and I got into business in 2008. So I don't have a serious business background to start this business. And so when I sort of went and spoke to him about this business idea, he didn't even sort of understand this technology, online ticket sales, and etc. So sort of we all referred it as an agent. Okay, is that is going to be an agent business. That's how he looked at, and how the idea came up is, I did my engineering in Chennai from 2001 to 2005, passed out in electronics and communication engineering, right, got into the GE as a software developer in Lotus Notes. I was developing a Lotus Notes for a GE money division. And it's a Chennai. And then I used to go to Guntur to see my parents. So the obvious choice is bus or train. Train is something which was 15 days in advance planning. At the time, the IRCTC was there, e-ticket, I-ticket was there. And the buses doesn't have any systems in place, where I used to go to a nearest agent and buy a ticket offline. He used to write manually and give it to me. And the buses are a convenient choice for me, because I take it at 10, and then 7 o'clock I reach to Guntur, and at the same time I take at 10 in the night and then come back to Chennai. So one day the pricing was that it was 500 one day, the pricing was 800 one day, the pricing was 300 one day. There was no fair transparency maintained by that agent. And then I was little upset and sort of started researching on the online tickets, etc., etc., because at that time I see a lot of airline ticket portals like Make My Trip, Clear Trip, and Yatra started full page ads. And whereas Indian Railways has IRCTC, but bus doesn't have any too many sites to book a bus ticket. So that made me to think a lot. And then, yeah, I think this is a great opportunity, and there's a lot of travel boom is there, and there's a need for that. Especially the customer needs the online ticket booking site for the fair transparency, timings, and the seat availability, etc. So that and on that day I took the decision. I quit my job, went to my father and explained about this particular idea. Sort of took a seed capital from him, about 15 lakh rupees on in 2007 end. And it was a hard convincing, because of the background, as I explained before, very hard. It took almost 2 months for me to convince. And then finally he gave it, and then moved with that seed capital. I moved to Hyderabad, and then I started approaching these bus operators. So as I said, that these bus operators doesn't have any systems in place, software websites in place. So the manager who is there in the central office, he is having a 4 or 5 charts, manual charts. If he's running 10 buses, he'll have 10 books, and he's writing manually and issuing tickets manually. And he'll, any call coming from the other offices or other agents, he'll just manually tell them this is the seat number, and he'll write with pencil. If there's a cancellation, he'll erase with the pen. That's how the system, that's how they were following. So when I told them that I want to sell it on abhibus.com, and I want an API link, they were surprised, and they said, we don't have any of that sort. So with a great difficulty, after going continuously 30 days to manager, not even the owner, the manager, he said that after 30 days, he gave me 2 seats quota of Hyderabad, Bangalore 2 seats, and Hyderabad, Chennai 2 seats. So with that 4 seats, I launched abhibus.com in the year 2008. First 3 months, I couldn't sell a single ticket because no one knows abhibus.com. Right. So absolutely, it was a failure. And now I would like to show my first office before I get there. So just sharing my screen. So Isaac, can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Sure. So basically, if you see, that's the office what I have. It's about 400 square foot of office, which is a cellar. Actually, it's a cellar in an apartment in Czech Colony, where it doesn't have a toilet as well. So my first idea is to sell tickets. Literally first 3 months, I couldn't sell a ticket because no one knows abhibus.com. Then I thought that I think, no, I need to spend marketing dollars to make Abhibus popular. But with the 4 seats, can I spend some money, or I need more inventory so that I can, if customer comes, there is enough inventory, enough routes are covered. But if I go back to the bus operator is selling, you're not able to sell these 4 seats. How can he give you more 40 seats? So it is basically became a chicken and egg story, where that the bus operator is not giving tickets, extra tickets, extra quota because I'm not able to sell these 4 seats. If I have to start advertising, I need more routes and more seats. So in fact, that first idea literally failed, where then I have to, the operator pulled back those 4 seats also, and I have left out with nothing. So then, in fact, I went to and I sort of quit Abibus, and in fact, I joined in a company, a software company. The company is in Lakshmi Cyber City. It's a Real Page is the name of the company, which I went there. And then I attended the interview. I got the job immediately. They gave me a offer letter. Right next day onwards, they asked me to come. I joined. I went to Real Page office 2 days, and in fact, it was so frustrating. I couldn't even like focus on like the Real Page or what, because it literally failed. I'm literally failed. But I thought I'll just give one more try, and then I spoke to Real Page people and said that I would just want to, I have a startup, I want to give one more try. Literally, they encouraged me, and then I came back to drawing board. Then I started changing my business model of what went wrong. So basically, I need more inventory. So to have more inventory, and at the same time, I want to have to keep this boat running. I need a fixed revenue to run this boat for some more time. So keeping these two aspects in mind, then I started customizing my software Abibus to a white label solution for these private operators. So one of the private operator, I went back to him and said, hey, look, so you have so many issues of route planning, the fare change, performing route versus non-performing, prepaid or prepaid, you're getting money later the part because of the collection. You have a postpaid collection, you'll get prepaid collection. So I took their pain points of all the pain points of a bus operator, converted my Abibus software into their white label solution, and I started charging them a per seat basis. Per seat, if the ticket is sold in their office, their website, or their agent, I get paid, and so that I get my recurring fixed revenue, so that I can keep this boat afloat. And at the same time, I will get all the 40 seats of a bus rather than a quota base. So that's how I address the problem of having the quota based system, and also making a little bit of money. So in October 2008 itself, I convinced one operator, took one operator live, and on a SaaS platform, and the bus operator has about 12 schedules at that time. And and the moment it went live, and lot of bookings, online bookings have started coming in. A lot of agents started coming to that particular operator and started prepaying. So the bus operator has a lot of cash in his hand. So with that, he started booking more number of buses. So he was absolutely happy, and he started word of mouth. He started talking about this more and more in this operator fraternity. And I got calls from across the operators across India, right from Kolkata to to Kerala to Uttar Pradesh to Delhi, all of his friends. Because local operators are sort of, they are fighting, but at least the rest of the country is friends and all. So I started getting calls from all the operators that everybody wants this software. And then so we started focusing completely on building software for these bus operators. Slowly from 2008, we continued to add operators, bus operators. And by 2012, we had almost like 350 private operators using our backend. And by then we have APSRTC, the Uttar Pradesh Road Transport Corporation, called for a bid for hosting their bus systems, so their buses, and we have given them a SaaS platform. APSRTC called for a tender. We got that through the tender, and then now Telangana is both are with us. Karnataka is also called for a tender. We participated and we got it. So it became a basically that services product we built in for one operator became a product by itself, in matured product in over a period of 3-4 years. And with that product, we started taking that product to multiple bus operators and multiple state governments. And so we standardized the product, and with 20-30% of minor modifications in the product, we were able to give a customized solution to almost all the bus operators in India and large state transport corporations. So and then from 2013, we almost got about 45% of the market share in terms of all the bus operators hosting white label businesses with us. Then we decided, okay, so to take up our initial idea of becoming a B2C, a consumer platform for the tickets to sell. So then we just quickly tweaked the abhibus.com, added the rest of the bus operators who are not on Abhibus platform, integrated with them through API. By the time they are also hosted by some other systems or by the competitors, they've been hosted, and we quickly integrated with the other operators and started focusing on consumer brand. So technically in 2014, we are purely a zero, absolutely zero online sales. And since then, we started our consumer story. And initially we were doing, first year, we did about 10 crore of online sale. And then from 10, we became 60 crores. From 60, we became 180 crores. And from 180, we became 350, and 350, we became 700. So as of last year, we were doing about close to 700 crore of online ticket sales, which is about roughly 10 million tickets, 10 million tickets per annum, which is 1 crore tickets, average standard price of 700. So we are doing about 700 crore of ticket sales, and we have currently have 350 private operators, 5 large state transport corporations, and the online 10 million online ticket sales. So that's where we stand. That's a quick brief about the journey. And maybe I can just share, just as I mentioned, now we are the India's favorite online bus ticketing company with 6 million downloads and 10 million seats per year. And we are the only positive EBITDA e-commerce company in India. I can proudly say that, because of the various elements to it. So right from, because we have a time, number one, and then over a period of time, we started developing and built it over a period of time. Just to give you an example, right? So today, a lot of companies are spending to buy the customers. So to acquire customers in the form of cashbacks or, on the massive advertising platform. So we've built it steadily, scalable, and we are the only positive EBITDA company in the entire e-commerce industry. So these are my learnings. Basically, a couple of learnings is know your market and know your customer. So this is one of the key learning. So we need to know the size of the market, and also the profile of the customer whom we are trying to serve, and get to them in a right fashion. So it doesn't make any sense for us to spend money, right? A guy who's a bus a traveler and putting our money on a History Channel or maybe in a CNN, etc. So you need to know your customer profile and target the customer on a right place so that you get your customer acquisition cost lower, which is really important. And at the same time, and how his profile is, his education profile is, that if we show something really high tech, high funda where you don't understand, right? He'll just skip off. He'll just delete the app in like no second. He'll just uninstall it. So it has to be clear and clutter free and simple in terms of when the customer is trying to transaction. So, and also you have to know your market and who are you're dealing with. So you need to know the bus operators, their profile, how to handle them. You need to know who are the SRTCs. You need to know how to handle them. So it is very critical to know your market and know your customer. And you need the another good learning is that we need to have a good team and a good investor. So luckily, I've got a good team, but in fact, I can explain my journey in more detail about the getting the right investor is also very, very, very important. So I have a huge learnings there. I can share more learnings, and once we move to Q&A, or like we can cover that separately. But my learning is to have a good team and good investor. And and just another learning is great product is not great technology. Great product is like giving is what customer wants precisely, customized, personalized, right? It's not about building a great high tech funda of like it's updated no technology, etc. We still, if you see our it is on PHP, right? So maybe the the database is in MySQL. Right? It's not about the what the technology we are building in, but exactly the great product, what exactly the customer wants, the precisely what he wants. So that is more important than the what tools, what technology we are using is later. And then choose sector or business which is like scalable, sustainable. So this is what the learning is. And second point is, so all the business models are built on today. Online businesses are built on a laziness or the convenience. If you see Swiggy, right? So we have delivery even before, right? If you take, so it is basically on the laziness. We need the delivery, quick delivery. That's a convenience, right? And then the theaters, book my show, right? It's purely the people used to go and buy a ticket at theaters. Theaters were there before, but it's a convenience. And buying hotel rooms, buying flight tickets, and booking a cab, right? So these are all purely the business models which are built on laziness and convenience. So that is something which I think we have to keep in when we are planning our business. And also perseverance is the key. That's something again I've learned. Sticking on to one business model rather than keep changing every now and often. I think I think we'll fail, we'll fail, we'll fail. But I think one day you'll see that that trajectory, definitely for sure. So the hooking on to that idea is very, very important. Rather than I see a lot of entrepreneurs keep changing their business models very often, just because there is one failure. But I think sticking on to one business and perseverance is the key. So this is another learning. So these are my quick learnings which I could share. And Isaac, we can move to. So I'm open for the questions. Isaac.
Yeah, so that's great. Thanks for sharing, Sudhakar. There are a couple of questions coming in from the chat as well. So I'll start off with a question. So one of the changes when you started again the second part of your journey, you picked a different business model to it. But then at some point of time, it turned into a aha moment, right? Because you created a different business, you were working on a different business model, working through it, and at some point of time, you felt now it is working, right? I think you reached a point, I would think. So when was that, and what was your reaction? And can you describe a little bit more about it?
Did we lose him?
Looks like we lost him.
So sorry about that, everybody. Let's just give a few more seconds for him to rejoin.
Isaac, probably you can talk about the next, the other Innovation Month speakers. I think Sudhakar will join us back.
Okay. So for the audience, we have lined up a number of speakers through the rest of the month. And we have scheduled it all on Wednesdays, I think the next 3 weeks. And it's planned for in the evenings. And what we have, I think we'll share the names shortly as we go out with the announcements. And at a broader level, what we are trying to do is, we used to have these other ways of meeting and talking about innovation in other sessions. But at this point of time, we have declared this entire month to be focused on innovations, but not just generic innovations, but more from an entrepreneur point of view innovations, right? I think people who have innovated and taken through an entrepreneurship road, brought it to the market and been successful over the years. And so this is the kind of journey we are going through this month from the HiCI Innovation Forum as well. So I think we'll make the announcement in the next few days, right, Neeraj? I think.
Yes. In the meantime, I'll show them the slide.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so next week we have Arvind Sanka, who's co-founder of Rapido, and then after that we have Christopher Gali, who's the co-founder of Graphite GTC. This is a low-code enterprise software development platform company, and Bhaskar Shankara, who's the founding CTO of AppDynamics. I think people would have been aware of this company as well, I think.
So both Christopher Gali and Bhaskar Sunkara, they're joining from the US.
Yes. Sudhakar is back.
Sudhakar, welcome back. So I don't know if you were, I was able to communicate my question before. I think it's gone.
Sorry. Yeah,
no
sorry.
problem. Can you hear us okay now?
Yes, absolutely fine.
So the question I was asking is, when you again started your journey again, of course you were starting with a different business model in mind. But at some point of time, you would have realized, right? You would have realized the business model that, and then turned into an aha moment. Okay, now it is really working, and we are on a different trajectory here. So when did such a realization happen, and what sort of an experience did it lead for you to realize that, and how has been the trajectory after that?
Yeah. So I think when I'm like, it's like, if I can divide my journey into two parts. So I have one trajectory growth when I'm doing my SaaS business, when I had my SaaS journey. And then for the SaaS business, it really doesn't need too much of capital to grow. So I took the trajectory path of SaaS from 2008 to 2013 pretty quickly. But and also when I started interacting, going to market in 2012 to meet the investors and get the fair sense of raising investment. So they said like the B2C is the future, the consumer market is the future, and they said the faster growth can happen in the B2C side of it. So that was our idea of 2008. But because we parked it aside because there is no systems, and bus operators doesn't have a system, so we put them aside. But then in 2013 we decided to do a B2C side. Then that was a huge learning for us. And since then we've been like growing. We took up the B2C side in 2013, and where it was end of 2013 and beginning of 2014. So we were absolutely on a trajectory growth, almost like we are growing on 100% year on year.
Okay, excellent. So one of the questions from the audience, Sudhakar, it is, you touched upon this about having a good investor. The question is about if you can share a little bit more about what do you mean by that, and kind of the investment and the valuation at that moment. I think anything you are prepared to share around that.
Sure. I'm happy to share my experiences and learnings again. So when I started in 2008, I literally don't know what is VC, what is PE. I literally don't know. I just took seed capital from my father, 15 lakhs, and started this business. And I took it as a very conventionally, when I do business, I want to earn money. But the sort of the world is like the VC and PE by 2010 and all that. So at the time, always whenever we require money, we were going to the HNIs, high net worth individuals. And then I raised my first money in 2009 from a HNI. The HNI, I'm not saying the HNI is bad, but definitely there is a difference between HNI and also with a serious who could contribute to the business, right? So names of Nandan Nilekani, who is a HNI, family office, he can sort of, where he brings the money as well as the knowledge and his experience and his learnings. And when you're stuck in making certain decisions, right? Or when you're presenting in the board, there could be a different alternative view to the whole of what you're looking at it. So those value additions, typical money, real estate, sorry to say, but the real estate HNI can't bring in, right? Depending on the business what you are in. So having a good investor with the right mind share and right, who will be able to share your vision, is very, very important. So my journey has been, because I didn't know that. So okay, I took the money and then started growing the business. So one point in time, and I need more money. Then the HNI couldn't help. But again, I went to another bigger HNI and then raised money. So always I've been around HNIs. Whereas if I have raised the money, if I've been patient and raised money from a good institution, right, or from a good angel investor who could contribute in various different level, no, the funding rounds. So that could have been a real value add for me than pure money. So there will, it's not the money. Basically, the investor should come with his own, aligning to your vision and contributing to you when you're stuck. So this is what is my good investor means.
Okay, excellent, Sudhakar. So some of the questions are more around technology. I think you, in your comments also, you made a commitment to customers and what the customer needs. I think to be focused on that.
Yeah.
Given the growth of your business that you have seen, how have you kept up with the platforms and systems that will ensure that you scale rightly? And not only that, in terms of usability and enhancements, right? I think right now everything is a click away. So how did you make sure that on both these sides as well, that things were updated and kept up with it?
Yeah. So scalability is something which is basically, it's purely on the demand side of it. As and when we see a demand, we could sense that, hey, look, I think we need to upgrade our systems to scale those transaction volumes and call volumes and everything. That's something which we could really see that. So basically based on the seasonality, for especially for the travel, right? So the seasonality is April, May, June is a seasonality. And then depending on the last year performance and the growth rates, so we will scale up our systems and processes. So that's how the systems are scaled. But when it comes to the product, right? So um, the product is coming from the purely from the customer learnings. So we are on top of our toes. Basically, we get calls from customers, various customers every day. We get today, in the month of January, we were getting about 3,000 calls every day to say that, hey, I'm standing here, and then where is the bus, whether the bus has already left, whether I'm standing in the right place. So these are the questions which are getting, we're getting calls from the customers. So these are the learnings which we take to our drawing board and say, how do I address that, right? So when the customer is seeing it, so can I have a vehicle tracking deployed in the bus which will address that particular problem of where you can see the position of the bus. So he's trying to call us for, I want to talk, there is a like customers are giving their grievances. The bus is not clean, the driver is misbehaving, or sort of, they stopped at a place which is their woman can't even get down. So these are the feedbacks what we are getting on a continuous basis. And then how do we do it? So we've given that feedback system to the bus operator real time, and we asked the customer to start rating it. So, and then we brought in the rating system. And also we were the first ones to bring the insurance in the bus travel, because there was an accident happened and the bus guy operator didn't even insure. A lot of people sort of didn't even get the insurance. In fact, we paid from our pocket. That was a learning that, okay, hey, why don't we talk to ICICI or any bank and create a policy. So we brought in the ICICI Lombard for a travel insurance for the bus, and we brought in the meal on board when they're booking. No, so these are the, whenever trying to book a ticket, so can we offer a meal, right? So these are the things what we're trying to bring in. So it's a constant learning. These are the requests we keep getting from the customers, and then we try to build that into product and then give it to all the customers. So it is a constant learning, innovation, and then making as a product.
Okay, excellent. So I think on a related note, I think there is also a culture you must have built over a period of time. You talked highly about the team that you had created that worked with you and so on. Now, as the organization has become bigger, how is the culture of innovation and idea generation from within the company? So how do you promote it and how does it work?
Yeah, so generally we have a all hands meeting on every Tuesday, where we call all the team members, and so right from the office boy to the all the CXO levels. And it could be small, it could be big, it could be whatever. It's a 4 hours of session which we try to do. And some of the guys who are from Bangalore, from Bombay, and even they participate from the Zoom or the video calls. And whatever the idea is, small or big or something, so we open, they can have a open a discussion, and then they bring it to the table. And being the, as I said, it's a small company, especially a product company, right? So we have 50 engineers on a whole. So, and we have other team of about like 60 people. So it's a very small organization. So it's a open, transparent, and we don't have a too much of hierarchy layers where they have to know approach through that and then come to me. So it's all open culture, which what we have built, and always we empower the people to take the decisions. So the to take the decision, and well, it could be wrong. So there are certain days some of the decisions are wrong, but still we encourage the people to take those decisions, because otherwise it gets into a monotonous, and then any innovation to reflect, it'll take a lot of time. So we've created that culture of openness between the people and to empower people to take decisions.
Thanks for sharing that, Sudhakar. And given the current situation, I think there are a few questions that have come up related to what are the effect of COVID on your company's business, and also how you are overcoming it, and what do you see as happening down the line, right? How do you think things would play out over a period of time?
Yeah, so definitely a interesting time for all of us, all the companies globally. So I think the pandemic has, we are also couldn't escape from the pandemic effect. Yes, we are also deeply affected because of the bus operators are not operating the buses due to lockdowns, semi lockdowns, and also now currently the cases are going up. Yeah, but I think over a period of time now, people have started realizing about the protocols and procedures to travel, basically. So okay, if I have to travel, and this is the way I will travel with certain precautions and all that. So that is getting slowly into the consumer's mind, and I think the way we are seeing the business is that another, I think 3 to 4 months from now, especially the bus business will come to normal, because of various other modes of travel is going to be could be expensive because of the flights is going to be expensive, and the trains are going to be with a very limited supply. All that, I think the buses are going to play a crucial role. So we see that 60-70% of business will come back in next 3-4 months. And as we keep mentioning about these bus operators being some of the non professional bus operators, so I think no, with this pandemic, at least they will fall in place where the cleanliness, hygiene were given an importance, and then which will be an USP for them. Otherwise, people will just ignore these small, unbranded, unnamed operators. So I see a good opportunity for the bus operators to make them stand different, and then start selling these, showcasing it to the customer. And we can play a clear, crucial role in when it comes to that. That they can't shout out, or unbranded operator can't shout out and say that I've done this. So we can play a critical role, and this is something which we are banking on. And second thing is also moving forward with the coronavirus. I think the cash, dealing with the cash. Even today, as I said, we are selling only 30,000 tickets every day, out of 15 lakh tickets available on Abibus. 30,000 is hardly anything out of 15 lakhs. People still going to counter, paying cash and buying ticket. People going to bus station, paying cash and buying a ticket. After COVID, I see that a lot of people, I think now itself, you can see a lot of people are doing GPay to do even peer-to-peer transaction and all that. I see a lot of digitization will happen, right? So my mother doesn't know how to use a GPay earlier, despite she has a smartphone. But now she knows let's say she has to pay a milk boy to transfer her 20 bucks, 30 bucks, 50 bucks. So he transfers GPay. So now most of the crowd who are like cash users are getting digitized, and I see that growth trajectory is going to hit us in a very positive way, and we will see the growth coming next year. So this year, yes, definitely we have to lie low and be float and be patient and start thinking about product and customer experience and how do we enhance those things. So this is a time where we have to spend more on that. Yeah.
Okay, excellent, Sudhakar. One of the questions building upon your own experience itself, and you mentioned about for the initial seed money, your father funded it with about a 15 lakh amount. So the question is, your story is definitely inspiring, and there are people interested in probably pursuing a similar career from their work. So question is, if somebody were to, start an e-commerce online business, like maybe in a different domain, what is the kind of investment they should think about, right? If they quit their job and want to start off, because the situation is quite different, right? In terms of even the hardware resources that are available now in cloud and the technologies, I think you can probably get started quickly without a lot of capital. I don't know, but at the same time, I don't know how much there is also probably much more competition in coming up with something so fundamentally new, right?
Right.
So could you share something in this regard?
Yeah, I think very good question. I think see, at that time 15 lakhs was a decent amount of capital in 2008. Today, yes, that is definitely equivalent of in equal terms. It's definitely a crore, I would say, for sure. But things have completely changed since then. Today, there are multiple platforms. If we sort of have an idea and sort of if we can come forward and execute a bit. So there are platforms, I would say, I can name a few. Sequoia Surge. Sequoia Surge is something which everybody could browse. So it just, if you have a brilliant idea, you have a good, you have to get 2-3 good team along with you and then make an idea and do a little bit of a prototype. And if you submit it to Sequoia Surge, so they are coming in forward and funding a $2 million just on the idea stage itself. And today there are multiple such platforms. Today, the Amazon is just extending a 20,000 US dollar credit for the US for the hosting the platform, right? So there are plenty of options are available today. There are angels, Hyderabad Angels, and or the Mumbai Angels. There are angel networks have come up, so that no today I think it's more open and more collaborative, and people are also a lot of willingness to invest in startups and take the risk, etc., etc. So I think no, if you have a good, decent amount of capital, I think still again I would say 20-25 lakhs of cash, and then good 2-3 members and do a prototype, and then from there I think there are systems, there are companies which are really welcoming even at a seed stage and taking it. It's really good. I think the funding is not a challenge is what personally I see.
Okay, thanks. So on a slightly different area, which relates to your approach to branding and also advertising, your approach to having movie stars and so on. So what has been your approach to this, and how did you come up with, okay, this is what you want to do compared to maybe other approaches? So
Yeah, so see, definitely we are behind growth, and growth is always a constant factor, so which we keep measuring ourselves. So first year, as I said, we mentioned before that I did 10 crores, 10 crores to 60 crores, and 60 to 180, etc. Right. So this is all happening. Initially, one strategy was to go back to the customers whom we have already on the customer profile and start going behind them. Then we went into performance marketing using Google, Facebook, and Instagram, etc., etc., emailers, etc. So we went and then got numbers from X to X. But after that, what else we could do to make 2x to 4x, right? So definitely we have to go to a much larger audience to take this brand to much larger audience so that we can grow from 2x to 4x. It's not easy, so we need to do that. So that's the reason, that's when we decided that we have to go behind an offline medium, which is the TVC, which is the news and billboards. So that's how we want to go about. Then we were sitting and ideating about it. So then we discussed at length of, okay, we do with brand ambassador, we do without brand ambassador. Uh, we have taken a punt, definitely on, a huge I won't say risk, but the huge bet on, taking a movie star. But I would say it really paid off well. It really paid off well because of a difference between brand ambassador and non-brand ambassador. We call it as Charlie, basically. Charlie, basically, no brand ambassador. So we need to spend 7-8x of amount in terms of when we on the brand spend on the TVC. So that's what we realized. The recall value of having a good brand ambassador is very, very high when compared to a normal TV ad. So I can share my experiences that when I was doing a TVC right in the beginning of in 2016 we started, Mahesh. So 17. So when I was traveling in a flight, a person, old man who is about 60 to 65 age, he just walked in and literally he is just like, he don't know where to sit also, like he couldn't even see the seat number properly. Maybe he's just boarding for the first time or second time. So such a person came and sat beside me on a wrong seat. In between, just quickly we started having a conversation, and he asked me, what do you do? I said, Abhibas. He said instantly, is Krishna's son. So that's what he said. Is Krishna's son, is the ad coming for you? Is what the man told me about. So you can see that the people 60 to 65, their connection is with Mr. Mahesh Babu's father, Mr. Krishna, and they are able to relate to my brand. So not even, he didn't say Mahesh Babu. He said like Krishna's son, and he related to Abhibas. So there is a high recall value in his mind that yes, yeah. Then I felt really happy that, hey, look, I think so the strategy works. So he remembered Abhibas with Krishna's son association. And also, second example, when I went to a temple, then instantly the pujari asked, and I told him. Then he said, "Oh, Mahesh Babu is coming for the ad. Oh, does Mahesh Babu own something in your Abhibas?" So these are the questions and conversations. So people are able to relate, people are able to remember. So with Mahesh, we achieved that nook and corner of uh, Telugu speaking fraternity. I think they know Abhibas as a brand. We thought, yes, I think, yeah, it is expensive, but in a long term, definitely it paid off. So that is what I could definitely tell. Yeah, if you take a little short term, I think it will be very expensive. But if you spread that over a period of 3 to 4 years, I think definitely it works with a brand ambassador. It worked for us. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Very good. So there are a few questions, Sudhakar, on competition, and particularly in the context of B2C. So by the time you took on the B2C segment, there was already Redbus, which was an incumbent and very well known and popular. So how were you able to, overcome that or find a place for yourself also along with Redbus and able to grow and continue to be successful?
Yeah, so the Redbus started the company in 2006, and we started the company in 2008. Uh, till 2013, definitely we were complementing Redbus in a big way because we are a B2B player. Wherever earlier they were just following the old quota based system of taking quota and returning the quota to the bus operator, having a huge manpower to return the quota basis. So we are digitizing the inventory. They're happily enjoying the API and then doing the business. We definitely acted as a catalyst for their growth, but it's fine. We are absolutely, when we were a B2B player, we were doing on our own growth trajectory, and they were their own growth trajectory. So for us, the moment we decided 2013, let us compete. Yeah, I think by then they were like funded deeply, and also they were acquired by deep pocketed guys like Naspers. Naspers have acquired that company. Goibibo acquired that company. So despite of that, so we went to market to test the waters. So everybody said that, hey, look, boss, even if I fund X million dollars, I think you won't be able to get to numbers what Redbus is. So it's basically I can't fund that money, so it's already done. But uh, I would say that the market is so huge that it could fit in 2 3 players like me. But it's not that winner takes all, because as I said, there are 15 lakh tickets. In that at that time, Redbus was doing 30,000 tickets. In 2014, they were doing 30,000 tickets. We were doing zero, technically zero, and so they were doing 30,000. But there is a 15 lakh tickets available. I said I'm not going to behind this 30,000. I'm going to go behind 15 lakhs. So my universe is basically large enough to acquire new customers. So since then, they are also growing. We are also growing. Definitely, there is a space for another few more players. It's We are not going to behind their customer. They are not going to go behind our customer. We are not competing, fighting on the keywords, or we are not doing all that. Or if they are giving X discount, we are not. We are doing X+2 discount. No, all we are trying to get a new user. How do we improve our product? Stick No stickiness to customer, existing customer who has already transacted, and also how do I acquire new customer. To give you a stat, so we have almost like 70-30 ratio. 70% of my users are repeat users. 70% they have transacted, so they're coming back again just because of the product. We give them a right product, and then they come back with the best because of the best quality of service and responsiveness of the site, etc., etc., etc. It's not just discount. Today there are players who are giving deep discounting, but still they are not even to get our numbers. To give you a Paytm is the guy who's fighting with deep pockets, but still people are doing a first transaction there, and the next transaction is with me or with Redbus. So I feel that the universe is large, so there's a place for many people, but we have to be really navigate ourselves and try and see where we are, and not just go behind with the herd. Oh, he's giving a discount, let give a discount. So I think that's something which we have learned, and then over a period of time, and we have a decent place to stand ourselves for the next future years as well.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we have spent a good amount of time and a good set of questions from the audience, and you've also kept everybody quite engaged with a lot of good insights. Maybe to wrap it up, we are nearly almost at the end of the hour. Maybe if you can share about what is in store for the future, right? I think from where you are to from a longer term strategy point of view, where are you headed as a firm? And also there is interest in questions about, okay, are you thinking about getting acquired, or are you thinking about going public? So I think what do you see as your financial strategy, corporate strategy, and also maybe from a product strategy? What are your longer term thoughts?
So I can say product, definitely innovation on a product will keep us motivated. So always we will be on our toes to improve the product, keeping customer experience in mind. And so I would say the future is like this. So basically, especially we started thinking this 2 years, from 2 years, even before. Despite of so much of online and despite of so much of evolution over the last 10 years, there is a we as a Abibus is a marketplace. So we have a very limited control when it comes to customer experience, right from the booking to a boarding. Once the customer boards the bus, we literally don't have a control on the customer. His experience is completely in the hands of the bus operator. So even if the bus operator experience is bad, the customer is coming back to us, and like he is whatever he wants to have his no clearing with us. So he'll keep telling about the bus operator. So the way we are thinking is that why don't we, because we have almost like done about close to 35 crore tickets till date, over a period of last 10 years. So we have a huge data set which is available with us. So what we are thinking is that with the data set, so we were able to do we know what are the most profitable routes. We know what are the best timings for the bus. We know the what are the fares to, routes to everything. All the data is with us. So with that data, we approached the bus operator saying that, hey, look, impure efficiencies in this fashion, but they are not even giving a hear about it. But so that's the reason we are thinking of launching our own brand, our own branded buses, so which will give keeping customer experience as again. Even today we have boarding issues. We have people are like standing on the road to board a bus, and cleanliness of the bus, standardization of the bus, and people going, the buses are going stopping at an interim place where women can't even get down and have a use the restrooms. So still, and then blankets are smelling. These are the issues which still there, which are not in the control of Abibus. So I see a huge opportunity there. So we are working towards that, bringing our own sort of work with the operators, along working with the operators. So why don't we create a certain branded which will cover all these pain points, is something which we are working. And also along with the electric vehicles is something which, why don't we club this as together, is also something we are working. So this is what is the vision for the next 3-4 years for Abibus.
So thanks a lot, Sudhakar. Once again, I think very inspiring story for everybody, and thanks for taking the time and for being with us today. And I think on behalf of ICA and also from, I think, all the audience here, wishing you the very best as you continue on your successful journey with Abibus.
Oh, thanks. Really, I should thank ICA for giving me this opportunity, and thank each and everyone who have heard the story patiently. And thank you so much.
Thank you. And again, once again, thanks everyone for joining the session today. And as you see the lineup on the screen, we have great stories to come your way for the next 3 weeks, all of them on Wednesdays. Next week, we have Arvind Sanka, co-founder of Rapido, joining us. And then the following week, Christopher Gali, co-founder and CEO of Graphite GTC. And finally, at the end of the month, we have Bhaskar Sankara, founding CTO of AppDynamics. Again, thanks everyone for joining, and have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.